people seem to forget the Eagles are Super Bowl contenders. They need to treat the draft accordingly. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, King Dingbat here. I think there's an interesting pattern emerging as we get closer to the draft with the Eagles. I think a lot of people treat the Eagles like this is a team rebuilding and not a team that is trying to go back and win a Super Bowl. And to me, we are forgetting the big picture of this team. They are 1 year removed from a Super Bowl. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years, and yet people want to act like this is a team that has to completely rebuild. I disagree, and the Eagles must avoid the trap at all costs. And what trap am I talking about? I'm talking about the trap where the Eagles go into the draft looking for specific need at a position and drafting need over talent. This is how the Eagles have gotten in trouble before. And what you're seeing be pushed on Eagle fans and everything written up and talked about is the Eagles drafting of need. This is a trap, okay? The fact of the matter is this. The Eagles need to go into this draft having hopefully an edge rusher, a veteran edge rusher already in place. And one name that is going around, of course, we've heard the whole Myles Garrett thing and stuff like that, but one name that's going around is still Maxx Crosby. Now, ESPN did an interesting trade, a mock trade, which I actually think is something that I would strongly consider. But I'm going to ask you guys your opinion. Now, I know probably most of you guys have seen it, but that's okay. It's still, I think, one of the most interesting mock trades we've seen, because a lot of times they don't make any sense. This one makes a lot of sense to me. The Eagles get Maxx Crosby, and the Raiders get a 2026 first-round pick, 2027 third-round pick, and Nolan Smith. Now, this does 2 things, in my opinion, this trade. For the Raiders, on their end, they're still getting some value for Maxx Crosby, which, let's face it, was completely destroyed. Got completely destroyed by the Ravens, okay? When they stopped the trade from going through. This would still give them value. However, from the Eagles' perspective, it's not nearly the asking price that you had originally. Now, why do I think this is important? Why do I suggest doing something like this where you're giving assets away to get a guy like a Maxx Crosby? And here's my thought process. One, you're seeing guys like Jalen Phillips, Jonathan Grenard. These guys are now getting $30+ million a year to play the edge rusher position. This is a position that is overpaid, and yes, it may be a premier position, but it's overpaid, and truly, there are not a lot of guys that actually can play that position well. So guys who may be the next tier down are getting big money for it. In my opinion, if you're gonna have to pay the kind of money they're talking now, you might as well go and get an actual premier pass rusher. And of course, Myles Garrett would be my first choice, but we're talking about Maxx Crosby. He would be perfect fit for the Eagles as well. I think it's so important to remember right now, because I think a lot of people have forgotten this isn't a team that's just trying to rebuild or trying to, get back into the playoffs. This is a legitimate Super Bowl contender. For most of the year last year, the Eagles were the number 1 seed. They're coming off just winning the Super Bowl. And all you hear about is the A.J. Brown crap, the Jalen Hurts crap, and all this stuff. And they try to make it sound like the Eagles are just a team that's in chaos about to rebuild. And you see in the media, you see it all the time. You literally can see, like this, Jeff McClain wrote, 2026 NFL Draft position by position, why the Eagles must future-proof the D-line, right? And then you have Denzel Boston getting connection for the Eagles. You have mock drafts of, wide receivers going to the Eagles. You notice how everything is now either an edge rusher or a wide receiver in the first round. Edge rusher, wide receiver. I'm sorry. There are guys that I definitely like in this draft at edge rusher. Like Keldrick Falk, I like him. I like him a lot. But will he be there at 23? And at 23, are you taking an edge rusher, the fourth, fifth best edge rusher, just to fill the position? Or are you taking the best player available at the time? I think the Eagles in the draft need to focus early on their offensive line. They need to focus on their offensive line, and they need to find a veteran pass rusher. A veteran pass rusher going into the draft. You could still draft a guy in the second, third round, but you draft a guy in the first round, and you're telling him he's got to play to Jalen Phillips, what Jalen Phillips gave you, if not more, his first year. I think that's the wrong way to approach it. The Eagles, they need to focus on the best player available in this draft. And everything that we're seeing so far is lining up for the Eagles to not get the best player available. But the thing I'm going to do right now, I'm going to give you the best app available, in my opinion. Check this out. Let me first start off by saying thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app. The app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few players and you could build the ultimate lineup. It is legal in states like California. Now here's what I got for my lineup today. Okay, I wanted to do a little bit of a future bet. So this is what I'm doing. And I love this. All right, so I took Devontae Smith because I think he has a big year. I took more than 5.5 touchdowns receiving this year. I think Devontae Smith going to have a monster year. Then I also took Zach Bond to have over 2.5 sacks. I think Zach Bond will have 4 or 5 this year. I think you're going to see him get to the quarterback more. I took the over. Also, I took the over with Kenneth Walker and 7.5 rushing touchdowns. The Kansas City Chiefs signed him. They are going to use him, no doubt about it. And so head over to Prize Picks and use code HMA. And when you do, they'll hook you up. Play $5, get $50 instantly. That's right, $50 instantly. Just use promo code HMA. Shout out to Prize Picks, and the Eagles could make their prize pick in the first round of this draft if they go out and take the best player available. Now, my hope is that the Eagles address the offensive line in the first round and early in this draft. But make no mistake, if the Eagles go into this draft, for example, and Howie Roseman has his big draft board, and he has his big board, and you're looking at his top 10 available players while he's drafting, if that top player, if the #1 highest rated player at the time, okay, is somebody, that they could draft, like, I don't know, like Keldrick Falk. And here's an edge rusher. Here's a position of need. If it works out that, you're getting the best player available, which is also a position of need, take it. Take it. But if the best player available at the time is an interior offensive lineman and, he's on the board, you got to take him. The Eagles, when they have gotten in trouble in the draft, it's been because of things like we are seeing right now without, floating around in mock drafts, in people's suggestions on who they should take. Wide receiver, edge rusher. Wide receiver, edge rusher. I mean, people are posting up stuff like the Eagles already shipped out A.J. Brown. I got news for you. He ain't going nowhere. All right? And I got more news for you. The Eagles, they need an established defensive end. They need an established edge rusher. So to me, what they need to do is figure out who they're going to get in a trade or whatever to come in and be able to play that edge position. Then focus the draft on shoring up that offensive line. To me, you need an offensive line, you need a safety, you need a tight end. They can get themselves a tight end, I think, that could be a guy that goes behind Dallas Goedert and learns for a year. You could get a safety right now in this draft if you do it right. And we'll go over specific names as we get closer in this draft. We're going to talk about specific guys, but you could get a safety that you could start right away. You get a guy like Vega in the first round, then you might have to trade up for him, but he could come in and start right away. It would be big for the offensive line. The trap that I see is this trap of going and drafting a need. Oh, they're going to take a receiver in the first round because they're going to ship A.J. Brown out. Okay. Oh, they're going to take an edge rusher because they got no other choice. They've got no other edge rusher. Well, a rookie edge rusher who's maybe the fourth or fifth best player at his position taken may not be ready to jump in right away. I have no problem taking an edge rusher when you need to take him. Just make sure he's the best player available. That is all I'm asking. And the Eagles need to hold true to that philosophy. And if they do, they'll be successful. Because when the Eagles have gotten in trouble, especially in the first round, it's when they take a specific need over the talent available. And they've got to figure something out with that. That's just my opinion. It's something to watch out for. And yeah, if I had a chance to do that Maxx Crosby trade, I'd do it in a second. With that said, take care. I'll talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision, baby. We're all just living in it. You know, a receiver is an interesting situation because when I look at the guys, I think Carnell Tate, yeah, he to me is probably the only first-round receiver I would take in this draft. Omar Cooper, I think he could very well be a good player. I just think that when the Eagles pick, there are going to be better players at other positions that are more talented, in my opinion. So I actually think you're better off if you want to get a receiver, whether they get rid of A.J. Brown or not. You know, guys like Chris Bell could be a guy to get in the later rounds. Jordan Tyson, to me, out of all the receivers I've looked at so far, he pops off the TV the most. He does. He's just got injury concerns. But if he falls in the draft, maybe you take a chance on him. He would be a high reward, but high risk type draft pick. And I'm okay doing that at the right spot. But when we deal with the first round specifically, now you got to stick with the best player available. Stick to your board, stick to your evaluations, stick to your gut. Denzel Washington, out. That's all, folks.
The brother screwed us.